Welcome to Daily Buzz News. Controversial voice Ike Kumalo sparks heated discussion, weighing in on Cape independence, Johannesburg's challenges, and the role of foreigners in South Africa's future.
But other than that, I've had, with today's, Cape independence. It's one of the issues, that I wanted to touch, and I've expressed my opinion on the Cape independence, and I don't know how feasible is that, because sometimes you might be discussing something or things and you only to find that in terms of the constitution, those things are not practical or cannot be implemented, like death sentence. Most people, they would say death sentence needs to come back, and I know for a fact with death sentence will never ever come back unless there is a revolution. We've got the Mugwanyane case which decided to do away with death sentence. So the provinces are integral part of South Africa. Even when you pass certain laws, you've got three spheres of government, which is national, provincial, and local government. So now, how possible is that, for Cape Town to be independent, or Cape Province? I know post 94, Cape, I think Western Cape, they had their own constitution, but it was not adopted, if I still remember. And they came up with something like that. As to how far they were taking this federal system, that's another question. Whether they wanted to be completely independent, that's another thing, because you'll have to remember how these provinces were constituted. Because in the past we had 4 provinces in South Africa. That was Natal, I think Orange Free State, and the Cape Province. And what's the next one? Transvaal. We had 4 provinces. And coming to Ikodesa, IFP, they were insisting on KwaZulu government being a separate entity. They wanted independence, they wanted federalism. And then it was decided that South Africa is a unitary state, but they will make compromises where provinces will be semi-independent, but they will account to a national government. Hence, we had 9 provinces. Some of the homelands were granted that semi-independent, because in the past we had TBV states, which is Transkei, Venda, Bophuthatswana, and Ciskei, and we also had homelands like KwaZulu Natal, Ramudike had 1. So all these, they were taken into account. We had 9 provinces, but they account to national. Even when we, come up with laws, eventually the national government has, a final power. Though sometimes there's a concurrent jurisdiction. Sometimes it's with nationality, the municipality, depending on the, departments and functionaries. So as to how far can Western Cape be independent, I don't think it's practical. That's why maybe those who are advocating for Cape independence, they're trying to go outside South Africa, approach, international bodies. Like we've seen in, what's this country? In Eastern Europe. It used to be Yugoslavia. It was divided, and separated during the era of Milošević, Czechoslovakia, where there were wars. In most cases, there are wars. When people separate a country, usually it's never peaceful. Like we've seen, Somalia. We've seen, is it Sudan? Rather, I wanted to say Sudan. There's North Sudan, there's South Sudan. It was never peaceful. So as to how far those who are saying the Western Cape must be separated, that's, another cause, and that's why maybe they're involving outside forces like Americans. But for me, I can understand the sentiments. Whether it is wrong or right, that's another issue. But I can understand the sentiments. If you see how Western Cape and the Eastern Cape both ran, you can see the difference in terms of what I mean. People will argue and say black townships are neglected. But for me, now, I would not want to be under the government of the Lutist. if I had something, to be honest, that's why I don't falter bodies and sovereign entities like Orania. I don't falter when people coming with their own universities, taking into account how the government of the day has mismanaged the institutions that, were functional. Our school, our school system now is, damaged. I mean, we used to have fabric producing, artisanry. Nowadays, I mean, you look, what do you have under the ANC government? 35 years, is it 35 years or 31 years? My mathematics sometimes fails me. Yeah, it feels like 35 years, and I think we are going on 40. And under Cyril Ramaphosa, who I feel with it, he is the worst president that we've ever had, but the most powerful president that we've ever had since 1910. And not even Mandela was as powerful as Cyril Ramaphosa, because Cyril Ramaphosa, for strange reasons, he has managed to put together all these factors and factions that are, have been against each other. They are all, for him, be it the media, be it the globalists, be it opposition parties, they are all in defense of Cyril Ramaphosa. And I feel even the judiciary, he cannot do wrong in the face of the judiciary. So that's where we find ourselves. So, but for me, now, if I was a Cape Townian having something to defend, of course, I would want not to be governed by the ANC, of which I still feel, as a taxpayer, I feel violated, I feel abused when I'm taxed, knowing that my money is going to be looted. Hence, I advocated, even in the previous episodes, with maybe it's time that the citizens, they run this country directly. Like Nigerians, when they hijack a building, they'll come up with a trust account and say, as from today, you put money into this board, you're no longer paying to the landlord. And I feel that South Africa should take that form. People should fix their own roads, and then the citizens contributing directly to those people. Unlike, paying politicians who are messing it up. I mean, I look at Dupree Street now, they say, I don't know, it's 90% complete, and they closed. I mean, other lanes, it used to be 5 lanes, and now it's 3 lanes. I mean, come on, Bree. This was one of the busiest streets. I mean, you can imagine the traffic. And each time you renovate Johannesburg, like that Ninkampump, what one? Parkstown coming in a bicycle lane. I mean, bicycle lane in Johannesburg. I don't see Nigerian men, with bicycle lane.
Bicycle lanes are necessary because we need bicycle lanes. Other countries that are developed have bicycle lanes for people that use bicycles. In South Africa, my sister lives in Russia. She came all the way to South Africa. She was so sad she couldn't bicycle. Now she has to pay, again, a gym because there's no bicycle lanes. She's scared of being hit by a car. So I like bicycle lanes, Ike.
Let me answer you on bicycle lane. Parkstown came with bicycle lane in South Africa. This is not Scandinavia. This is not Europe. And we have to take into account the history of the people, the history of the country. In South Africa, a bicycle amongst black people, it is seen as a symbol of poverty. That's why grannies, when they ridicule their daughters, slave queens who love cars, they say, umkhulu wako ushone anganalo nalo ibhayisikile. It's not, something that is seen, in glorious terms. Amongst the super rich, and who are buying these expensive bicycles, as in 200,000. But amongst the masses, I don't see the masses in South Africa, people in Soweto buying bicycles and wanting to go to town. I see them wanting to own cars. Maybe, when you've reached a certain stage as a society, we are now like, people in Scandinavia, Finland, and then that will change. But for now, people want to have cars. They want to go to suburbs. When you reduce them to bicycles, and your politicians, They're driving in blue lights. In Scandinavia, you find a minister in a bicycle. There is a culture to that. But you don't just impose a culture that way, so fast, so drastic. Let people reach a certain stage, being middle class, and then they can think that way. Then they can change a culture. But once they're still poor, you're telling them I'm a bicycle. No. Yes.
I wanted to take it back to Cape Independence, right? So in terms of the law, right? Or rather, what legal or constitutional hurdles would a movement like that face, the Cape Independence one, in terms of law?
I said it, in terms of the law, I don't see South Africa being separated or provinces becoming independent completely, because we are in a unitary state. I think our constitution, it makes provision when you pass certain laws. In South Africa, the laws must come from 6 provinces. So now you have to alter that, amend that, how the legislation is passed. I don't think I'm looking at you. I don't think in terms of our constitution, how this democracy was negotiated, they anticipated with one day Cape or Western Cape will want to be independent. I'll have to go to look at provinces and act. I didn't find an act which states that a province can apply a certain act or a certain directive for it to be independent. That's why I'm saying, from where I sit, look, I stand to be corrected. That's why I'm thinking maybe they will approach international bodies outside the South Africa, maybe the African court, international courts, and see how can they force that. But in terms of our laws, I don't see in South Africa having those provisions, making it possible for one province to say that they are completely independent. We are a unitary system. So I don't know, but I'll have to look into that, what is it? Maybe there is a provision in the constitution that says, Western Cape, in terms of section whatever, they can just, give notice, and then after 30 days, then they are gone independent. But I haven't come across that. All I know, even directly or indirectly, our laws suggest that, we are a unitary state. Yes.
I'd like to know, right? Should Cape Town become independent, would you advise everyone in South Africa to now move to Cape Town? Because obviously that's going to be a greener pasture. And what would be the advantages and disadvantages of that happening in your perspective?
Of course, if they become independent, I'm sure they'll have borders. I'm sure they will determine who comes in. Like Helen Zille said, they were experiencing refugees from the Eastern Cape. And look, I feel what Helen Zille said, because every province must take care of its own people. It is not fair for people to move from one province, to the other simply because their government is not taking care of them. Being a Joburger, a Transvaal, we used to experience amagoduga. People used to come from their homelands and come to work in Joburg. And some of them, they erected shacks. Back in the days, we used to complain about shacks. I remember Squatter Camp about the Lahlamlens, I think was started by people from Eastern Cape. But we had tolerance because we are all South Africans. But it is not fair for people in KZN, to move to another province. Yet they vote in KZN. And then their government is not taking care of their own people, and then they move. At the same time, people have a freedom of movement. I'm sure if Western Cape become independent, they'll have their borders and their passport, like Western Cape, not Western Cape, what's this province? So that now there's so many name changes. South Africans are so good, my name changes, of which I had issues when they changed William Nicole to Winnie Mandela. As much as I love Winnie Mandela, but there's so many name changes and you even get lost, sometimes. Yeah, but we're so good with it. But not West. Yeah, they had their own passport, their own national anthem. Yes.
All right. So my question is, why do you think this thing is gaining so much traction now? Because it's been going on for quite some time now. But why is it becoming popular now? Yeah.
I mean, it is natural that as a people, if you feel that you're not being serviced by the government of the day, you look at all options. And if you constitute yourself as a minority, I mean, you check in the Western Cape, we've got the colored community. They feel abandoned. We've got white community. They also feel abandoned because they're not being catered for. I mean, you check even gang violence. Bheki Cele, when he was a minister, even the ministers before that, they did almost nothing for the youth. Just Western Cape, be it Khayelitsha, be it the Cape Flats. I mean, in South Africa, we cannot deny that as much as we group ourselves according to our race, there's also a question of tribalism. That's why when there's a president who speaks a certain language, his own people, they back him. Like the vendors, they don't criticize Cyril Ramaphosa, yet they feel the pain. Zulus from KZN, they supported 100% Zulu boy. I've never met a prominent Xhosa who's against Mbeki, even though Mbeki was a spectacular failure everywhere. All the prominent Xhosas, famous ones, when they speak, it was better during Iraga Mbeki, you know. And even when you go to certain, locations, localities, I mean, you go to Eldos, you go to Western Cape, you go to Nuclear, you can see poverty, you can see drugs, you can see people, they are being neglected. And then they will feel, good, you know what, we are marginalizing this government, so we need a government of our own. That's why even the Afrikaners, they come up with universities of their own, because when you tell a person, good, no, your language will disappear from the map, they will defend themselves, and rightfully so. And blacks now, they should copy those models, come up with the universities to cater for their own people. But people of Cape Town, they will feel good, they cannot be under ANC. Look at ANC, they've mismanaged even Johannesburg. Look at Sandton. You sometimes find with Sandton doesn't have water. Imagine, the richest square mile in Africa doesn't have, working robots. There are potholes. Of course, if I was in Western Cape and where I am, maybe I'm in Constantia, then I'm thinking with you, if these guys, they come in, Constantia's gonna look like Hillbrow. I mean, ANC, they've always wanting, to take over Cape Town. All the time, they're always directing their effort. Even when PA was formed, it was formed to take over, to destabilize, their voting pattern. I mean, they once had Cape, Western Cape under Mbeki. And what did they do? They started fighting for position. They were fighting for position. That's what they do. And I wouldn't want those guys back if I was a Capetonian. And you check, most white South Africans, affluent, they move into Cape Town. From Cape Town, Australia, New Zealand, and even Nigerians, they're following them there. Zimbabweans, they're following them there. Yeah, they're going to Cape Town, and when they go, these guys, the standard drops. I've seen people that have, attended school Nabo. They go to UJ, UNISA. From there, they apply to UCT. And they know when they come out from the Western Cape, they go to Canada or whatever. They say, no, I'm from South Africa, Cape Town, because everyone and everybody wants to associate himself with the winner. And if I was winning Nami, I would protect my gains. I mean, look at Johannesburg. We used to pride ourselves. Small streets, Spokerk Street, you would walk there, you would feel that you are in New York. Not today, there are hobos, people urinating everywhere. You'll be robbed. After 6 p.m. winter, forget it. 10 people will come and grab you, lift you up. You'll be lucky to escape without step wounds. Look at Rivonia. It's becoming a jungle. I mean, we grew up saying, not today.
But have you seen that they're starting now to fix the infrastructure? I'm sure you've seen in
Fixing for who?
highways for the G20, but it's still for us too.
You cannot fix South Africa as long as you've got open borders. You'll never fix South Africa. You cannot fix Hillbrow unless you close the borders. If you don't close the borders, punish people who come here illegally. Give them lengthy sentences. Because, I mean, I watched Herman Mashaba when he was still a mayor. But I'm cleaning Joburg. The following day, these guys, they have no culture of cleanliness. You know, they spill water, cabbages all over. You're cleaning it for who? Because you have to change the culture, Labantu. And for you to change the culture, it means you must change them before they come here in Burkina Faso, in Rwanda. You must change them. Because when they come here, there's too many of them against us. I mean, when they come here, they feel no need. I mean, I'll be fighting people in the CBDs of Johannesburg. Somebody just urinating. I say, you're messing up my country. I mean, I see a person dumping next to the, you know, outside the dustbin. I'll be fighting these guys, and most of them, they're foreigners. I say, can't you see the dustbin? Where you come from? You know, they see no need. You know, you see an adult, and the next thing, this guy is in Uber Eats. I've been fighting guys at toilet in malls, guys urinating. One of them was doing number 2, and you know, I was washing my hands. This guy comes out, his Uber Eat. He's got a bag. I says, my man, aren't you gonna wash hands because you are handling food? He doesn't comprehend. He doesn't have that in his head. Till now, we are socialized differently. That's why I normally say, South Africans, they can say that we think we are better. Black people in South Africa think that we are white. We are socialized differently. Even our cultures, you know, Swazi, Ndebele, Tswana, Sotho, iyafana. We know when to slaughter. We know when to do what. We know irrespect. These guys who are coming here, some of them, they come here with criminal records of biblical proportions. They've been involved with much genocide. And then you tell this person, look, you know what, there's a paving there. They see a paving. They take, you know, all the remains there and they go put them in their houses. I mean, check in the cities. Look, the buildings, nice architecture. It's now filled, what's this thing? After trallies, like cage, libraries, cage. Wits, you know, Wits University. Do you know Wits University didn't have a fence? In Wits University, you'll enter this side, go out that, you know, that way, Bopanato. There was never a fence. But after the arrival of these guys from all over Africa, Braamfontein was an academic city, so you can never fix it enough. This guy, they chow even the bridge, even these things, you know, is barricaded the bridge. So G20 or not,
Whose fault is that?
And the crime in Braamfontein.
I agree with Ike. The country has deteriorated, and I've heard him when he says, you cannot, just because your government has failed to manage your city or your vicinity correctly, you cannot now migrate and try to decriminal or make or destandardize a now standardized area, right? However, look at it from the perspective of umuntu who is an average Joe, Ike, okay? The government has done the fuck-ups that they've done wherever they've done up there. Now they're affecting the people at the bottom. All the people at the bottom know is that if I get to South Africa, they've got paving, my man. I've never seen paving in my life. If it was me, I was going to take that paving so I can stop living in a hut. That's the mentality that's been conditioned into them by who? Their own irresponsible governments. So do you really blame them, the low people? Or are they just a consequence of the...
I blame them, and I also blame the government of the day. I blame them. I also blame the government of the day, because the government of the day, they've allowed lawlessness to prevail. In the past, you knew what not to do in town. You would not just pee anywhere in town because the police would arrest you. They enforced their own laws. The ANC government, they've never enforced their own laws. Hence, we see the degeneracy that we see today. Hence, all the traffic lights are not working. The street lights in Johannesburg, we used to call Johannesburg Gauteng Maboning. There's a reason for that, because people from the villages, when they came to Joburg, it was all lit. Today, you can't say Gauteng Maboning, you know, the city of lights. It is dark because there's cable theft. Who's doing cable theft? These guys, they've allowed it. So I blame the government of the day. Yeah, and beside load shedding, Load shedding was created by them. I mean, they were told, the most educated president, Thabo Mbeki, was told to build power stations. He did not do that. He was so busy pleasing the globalist, implementing structural adjustment, cutting here, cutting that, including SOEs and nama schools, some ambachs, empowering his own people nge-BEE, empowering Zanele Mbeki, empowering Bomutsipe, empowering all his people. Today, we are sitting with companies closing down because of the policies that they've implemented there. They've built nothing but Tokyo. What has Tokyo built? What has Cyril Ramaphosa built other than being plugged in? So it is their policies that, which have led us here.
But then how do you blame the average foreigner? I understand how you blame the government of the day for not enforcing their own rules, but me as just the average Joe foreigner who has been suffering due to the mismanagement of my own government, I have now decided to run and come to South Africa where there's a better, in my perspective at least, a better running. How are you blaming me? What am I supposed to do?
No. That argument is flawed. Let me tell you this. Once you find your snake in your sitting room, you deal with the snake first. How it came in there, it's another issue. A person cannot come into your country and start raping women and children, subjecting them to prostitution, immorality. You know what is good and right. Irrespective whether there is enforcement or not, you know what is good and what is right. What Nigerians are doing here is wrong. I mean, there's natural laws, or laws from the Bible, or laws from the Quran. Thou shalt not kill. Zimbabweans, they are known for brutal killings. If you're gonna come into somebody's country and start feeding them fake products, you know that is wrong. And you cannot bank with, the government is not doing much. You know that is wrong. I mean, I move around. I don't treat people, with disrespect simply because there's no one watching me. So these guys, they come into the country and they cannot come and say, because you people are, you're also stealing, you also have your own criminals. So now it means that if I come to your house, I find your child is also stealing sugar, I must also steal Nami, your wallet. That is nonsense. And they like this argument of saying, white people came here from 1652, they took your land, they also did crimes against you. So now if they are African brothers, they call themselves with the African brothers, if a foreigner is raping my sister, now you must come and also rape my sister. That is nonsense. These guys, from where they came from, they had their own affirmative action, they messed up their own countries, they voted dictators, and then when it fails, they run to other countries. South Africans are the only black nation on earth that are so proud. They've got their own culture. They don't run to any other country. Even during apartheid, when they had a reason to run, they never ran. I mean, APLA had about 25,000 cadres. MK had about 40,000 cadres. Not even 300,000 people left South Africa. But here we've got half of Zimbabwe is here. More than 5 million Nigerians. I mean, they say here, the people who are here, those who are in the know, they say almost 20 million foreigners are here. And you tell me, I mean, people of Palestine, do you see them all over the world? People of Cuba, people of North Korea, do you see them all over the world? It's only these African guys. They want a soft life. They're always running. And then when they come here into your shores, they start criticizing you. In America, they're experiencing the same. They say African foreigners are the most disrespectful. They're starting to insult them and say black Americans are lazy and all that. And they're taking opportunities which are supposed to accrue to Americans who've been enslaved there. And then that's why Americans are hitting back and say, you sold us to slavery, now you're following us here. So they're so disrespectful. That's why even Ghana today, they're fighting Nigeria to go back to your country. So when they come here, they don't assimilate. They want to rule, and they're very arrogant. Nigerians and Zimbabweans, they're very, very arrogant. They're very vocal. Yet they fail in their own countries. That's why I'm surprised when a person like Ramaphosa can go to Zimbabwe and tell him Nangwangwa that you've done well, and whatever that you implemented in Zimbabwe, want to implement here. If Zimbabwe is doing so well, why are the people running away from their own government? Tanzania, they're running away. I mean, you look at a country like Malawi. It's a country that it lives on donations. Even during the era of Foster, they begged an apartheid government to please accommodate my people. I've got 500,000 people to work in South Africa. Where is the pride there? I mean, Afrikaners, I respect them and I love them for one thing. As they say, with the Apure Maga plan. And they still making plans. Even today, even when there were sanctions, they're making, their own institutions, making sure that their culture is preserved, making sure that they're still running as a people. What about us? You've got BEE guys who are bragging, buying soccer clubs, dancing, buying alcohol. Yeah.
Oh, I'm just wondering, right, in like terms of the operation now, let's say that they like all of these illegal foreigners should go back, right? How will that look like? Because most of them now even have kids with South African people.
They must
have businesses.
They must take their kids and go with them. Business is a legal entity. They'll see how they maneuver. And it's the same argument that our sisters are always making, especially Amaxhosa, because this thing started there, but and if the baby dead is so cultural, according to African culture, umakoti follows the men. They must follow their husbands to Nigeria. Where is the pride? Nigerians, whenever they marry a woman, I've seen many of them marrying grandmothers of 89, a young man of 22, because he wants a citizenship to Europe, a citizenship to United States. They have no sense of pride. They must go take their wives.
But you don't think it's survival in some instances? Because I have a problem with the illegal ones, right? More especially the ones that do crime, right? But there's ones that, because there aren't opportunities.
You want to say the ones that are legal?
No, there isn't that many that are legal, and most of them actually have businesses in South Africa, and they hire South Africans.
They don't even make 1%, because many of them, they're supposed to come here providing scarce skills that South Africans do not have. And what scarce skills can Malawi have that South Africa don't have? Majority of them, they come here under false pretense, even their passports. If we can do an assessment, we start investigating these passports, how many people got their passport, there's a commission of inquiry, you'll find that 98% of them are not supposed to be here. Some, they come with student visas, they overstay after, and some of them, they're not even students. Some, they come as tourists and they never leave. So 98% of them, if they left, South Africa will be much better, and they left with their children. Some of the guys who were in exile in South Africa, they made babies. They took their babies with, and then came to South Africa. And they must go back to Zimbabwe, where they came from.
There's a Zimbabwean that I saw. They said to him, "Hamba buyele Zimbabwe." Then he said, how about you as a South African, uye Zimbabwe, then come back and tell me if there's anyone that can live in that country.
Nonsense.
The question that I'm asking is, I met another Zimbabwean guy who didn't have opportunities in Zimbabwe, and he came here to be a bricklayer, right? He's bricklaying and he's washing my car, and I felt so guilty. I allowed him to wash my car because he said to me, because if I don't wash this car, what's next besides crime?
Then he's blackmailing you. Besides crime, you must go back. Therefore, it means now everyone must threaten, the whole country and say, guys, if you don't give me work, then I'm gonna come to your house. People must be creative. And these ones cannot continue. These ones are foreigners. They've got their own country. They vote in their own country. They must work the land. I mean, they took land. They are bragging, Zimbabweans have land. They must go back and work land. And there's always an alternative. When people saying there's nothing, it means, the options are difficult and they don't want to take those difficult. They must plant vegetables, do something, wait for the rain, go to the rivers, plant. But now they come here to South Africa, and then they start violating South Africans. They start telling us, now we must go to Zimbabwe. And I can tell you one thing, all South Africans who are married to foreigners, those who've befriended them, those who've sleeping with them, those who are joining with them, if South Africans were to disappear in South Africa, including your foreign boyfriend, they will celebrate because they want to substitute us. This is a Trojan horse. These guys don't love us. You can tell even during our discourse, whenever we're crying a crime, I'm a foreigner, which is there. You know, they feel that you are being xenophobic. And even South Africans, they are now afraid to voice out their opinions. If I'm in a relationship with a foreigner, and this person is going to suppress me not to speak my mind, that person doesn't love you. I can see Nigerians. What is the crime in Nigerian? Prostitution, drugs. I mean, where do Nigerians work? I mean, Ethiopians, when they come here, they're selling these fake products that they manufacture themselves. Somalis, fake products. They employ no one, and they're giving our kids poisons. And if you raise that, if it's xenophobic, then there's a problem. If I have a partner who's a foreigner and each time I raise this issue and then I'm labeled as xenophobic, but yeah, now he can criticize me, now I must also join him and say, yeah, South Africans are xenophobic.
Thanks for watching.